as with the program. So Greg, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. And just let me switch to the presentation. And here it goes. So today's motivation is about a guy like me who always tries to show his work. It doesn't need to be very complicated work, but very often you do a lot of computation and you forget to display your results. And today is just about this. So it's not going to be very technical on the data side, though we'll look at a few things. But the most important will be at the end, the deployment side. So the title is Display Your Map on a website using Geopandas, Folium, Django, Heroku. And at the time I was writing this story, I wasn't so much aware of Git and GitHub. I didn't know how important these tools were. So I've added them on right now. Who am I? Just so you know where this speech is going. I work in a big energy company, and it's based in Paris. And my experience is often you have to deal with admin rights. So usually they give you a computer and you don't have admin rights. You cannot set up path variables. You cannot install any program you want. And second thing is access issues. So when you want to download or upload something, sometimes you get blocked and you don't even know because you're not a tech guy. You don't know how proxy works, and it's just crazy. And also, my work is as a data scientist, and we have many use cases in geomarketing. So we're more going to speak about easy geometry, X and Y, and intersection between X and Y and a circle or a polygon. It's not going to be more complicated than this, but you can still, in geomarketing, do most of your work in this field. Also, I'm no expert in any of the things we're going to see. These are open source tools, and yeah, especially in web development. And lastly, I live in La Rochelle, western coast of France. You have a little picture. And I like swimming, and we'll see why it may be relevant later in this presentation. And Basel is really nice. Arrived yesterday, and it's a really nice city. So first demo. Sorry. What are we speaking? What are we talking about? It's here. You may want to check. It's just a web page. However, you don't need any download. I don't need to send it through email. You just have to type this URL and you have your map. It's a Basel map. Why not? It's a simple map because the talk is not about showing you something pretty. Just basically, very often you will try to get a shape where you can attach an attribute. So for example, the population here, the attribute attached is the postlight cell. So you just know which postlight cell are each pieces of the polygons here. Which some things come free in Folium. It's the layer control. And also you can have the position here on the map. It's always very useful when you want to talk with your colleagues and describe a place you found and you find interesting. So that's the end of the work. And how do we get there? How do we get from a collab file or something something local to something online? So we'll describe the ingredients that we need to do all this. We'll use Geopandas to prepare the Folium map. We prepare a Django application to render the map. We see how to deploy to Heroku platform. And we look at the pros and cons of search methodology. Also, you may not need to take any notes. Everything is in a GitHub repo. And the instructions that we will walk through, if it works, will be much more detailed in the README file. So just relax and yeah, hopefully have fun. So the ingredients, you need a computer, you need an OS, you need Python, and we would recommend now to use 3.6 or above. You need an IDE. An IDE is something like a Colab. It's a very good one. VS Code, PyCharm. Well, you know them, maybe your own command line scripts. You need also the Python VM built-in library, which will come in handy. You need the command line tool, which is very useful in this context. Geopandas and Folium libraries are to run the scripts. Django library is the web framework we're proposing to work with. Git, Gunicorn is a web server gateway interface and specific to Heroku, a proc file. We'll talk a little bit about this and explain why. And there are two options. So as I said, if you have admin rights, you can work with the Heroku client that you have to download and install on your computer. If you do not have admin rights, you can use GitHub and set up create the application on Heroku platform. So these are the basic things you will need, and we'll describe them a little bit more from now. So the first step is GeoPandas to prepare a Folium map. So what we want to do here is to download some usually public data. So here in Switzerland, it was easy to find through the post office the different polygon shapes of the districts, and then you download the data. And then you upload the data in your framework. You transform it. You use Folium, which is a library based on Leaflet, and then you, with your notebook, you can have your map. And at the end, what you want is save your map, and you get an artifact, which is an HTML file. So let's just quickly look at this. So that this is it. We'll see if it runs. So once again, usually the steps for such a process is just to import your libraries. There's a difference if you use a Windows or a Mac when you want to install GeoPandas. If you want to install GeoPandas on a Mac, it's easy. You install pip GeoPandas. If you install with Windows, you will need to install some of the dependencies, which are not straightforward. And there is a link to the article that deals with it in an easy way for you to do it locally. I'm linking the drive to the data. But basically, you can do it in any way you want. This is, in a way, separate from the rest of the presentation. So the first step, you set up the parameters. You set up parameters for filtering, for the attribute you want, for the projection, for the zoom start. And then you read the file. This is the second step. Tell me if it's too small, by the way. I can maybe put it a little bit bigger. Everything here is not into detail, otherwise there would not be enough time, but every step is documented on the script. So you may click on the links if you want to know a little bit more. The only trick which was done here was to dissolve the whole districts into one polygon and get the centroid. So I would not need to start my Folium map manually. Then usually in the field of geomarketing, choropleth are a very useful tool because these are usually the smallest place where you can attach something like a population, and these are used then to join with other attributes like a number of shops, road networks, and to do your calculations. So this is why there is a choropleth map. It's not easy always to work with Chloropet Mass. So there is a link here to help you with working with it. I just uncommented, and we're going to run this place just because I like swimming. So I added a swimming pool. So we'll see if it works later. So we run the script. Hopefully it works. So these are the steps, and we have our map, but this time we have one swimming pool here, and this is where we are. So we'll see if we can get it running in Heroku a bit later. So let's say we're happy, our script runs, and then we have our artifact, which is the map. So we'll just, for now, just so I don't have to do it later, we'll download it. In the second part, which is starting now, the Django application my site folder. So we're going to switch to Django now. I'm saving this map in a specific location, which is under maps. So I've called my application maps. In the Django application, you have templates folder always, and you have to name your templates with the name of the application. And inside, you can save your HTML file. This is all, we're going to come back to it. So let's see if it works. I replace. So now the new map with the swimming pool is in the Django folder. So let's go to Django a little bit. So now we're going to go from an HTML file that you can send to your colleague through email. So you're already very happy with this, except if it's a big file. You won't be able to send it. To a local web app. I don't know if, probably many of you know Django. I don't know. I'm not going to ask because you all can know or not know. So Django is a web framework. It's not the easiest, but it's not the hardest. It's hard to tell, actually. Depends on what you want to do. There is a very good, there are some very good tutorials, so you can get to know it by yourself, given time. There is a learning curve, but it's quite interesting, actually. So your HTML file, if you've just saved it in the template directory, and now we're using Django, and we're going to use the virtual environment. We'll see it a little bit later. So Django is a model called the model view template environment. We're not, maybe the biggest strength of Django is the model part. However, it's out of scope for this talk. Maybe if one year later, once we get used to this Django framework, we can link our data directly to the view, and then we don't even need to run scripts. We can manage the data through the Django backend. So what we want to have at the end is a folder which is called My Site, but the folder is ready to go to Heroku. So a little bit of code. This is we're not just going to see how it looks like. So the Django application, as we just said, there is a maps folder. Basically, once you get into Django, you have once you create a Django application, it comes with many folders already. You have to tell it, okay, create one more folder. It's going to be called maps. You also have what is called the manage.py file. We're going to use it right now, and the maps is here. And in the maps, you have your templates directory where we saved the file. We have views which are used to render your map. It is not covered today. It's much. It would take too much time. However, all the links again are there for you to explain how it works. The way it is presented is you go through the official Django documentation. You go to getting started. You do part 1, and you copy and paste the code. You just do exactly this, and you replace one word. You replace Pulse, which is the name of the app, by maps, just to be like a more JIS like. And that's it. So part 1 is done. so then you go to part 2 of the tutorial and you skip it because the part 2 is about the model and the administration of Django. And so this one is a little bit out of scope. And then you go to part 3 and then you skip most of it. The part 3 will address this view issue, which is for you just to tell Django, okay, this is the name of the file I want to render, and then that's it, actually. So let's see. Let's see. We've done it, and then we'll see if it works. So you use the manage.py file, and you run the server, and then it starts your application locally. Let's see if it's okay. So it's here, actually. So I'm going to date it. And here you have the swimming pool. It's here. And this is where we are. So locally, our app was updated with the swimming pool and the university. And we don't need this ugly chloropleth. So that's about it, I believe, for the Django part. So what you need at the end is just this my site folder. However, it's not enough yet to go to Heroku. So we'll speak now about Heroku. Now, Heroku, I don't know if many of you know about it. You don't need to know about it. We'll look through it. Heroku was bought a few years ago by Salesforce, which is quite a big company, and it offers you a complete free, no credit card way to log in and to use some machines. It's really nice because once you don't really want to put your credit card on Amazon, you're already so scared that it's going to just take all your money. And that's the first thing. And then there's a second thing, is that you can deploy through GitHub. And it gives you speed over deployment, over iterations. So if you want to add a swimming pool, you can do it quickly if you don't speak all the time. I will already thank Corey Shafer. Some of you probably know him. He's, for me, the person who's the most charismatic and gives the best explanation when he gives a tutorial through YouTube. Most of this talk actually is inspired from him. In his talk, there is not this deployment, GitHub deployment part, which is added here. And also this GIS orientation. However, there is a link, and I would recommend to check his tutorials. What we want now is to update our application on Heroku, and we have our folder. So we just need to make a few things in order for the folder to go to Heroku and to be deployed. Here comes Git. So I'm going to get out of the server. And as you may remember, we downloaded the file in the folder template. So normally Git should recommend it, so should find it. So Git add, and I'm adding my file. I'm just checking if it's there. It found a new file. It found that the file was replaced, so we can commit it. Oh, thank you. Okay, so now we've committed our code. Let's go to the third part. Let's see if we can manage to push it. So, what you need from Heroku, we'll see Heroku a little bit. You need to, as we just did, to commit your code once you're ready. then you need to do a few things. You need first this notion of how does Heroku will understand that you want to deploy. You need for him to first. You need to give him a few instructions. One thing is what they call a proc file. A proc file is a link between is a way for Heroku to know which web server he has to use in order to deploy your application. It's a little bit like Docker, which I'm not familiar with, but there's a talk on Wednesday, so hopefully these things will complete each other. There's also a talk on Wednesday, I think, on Django, if I'm not mistaken. So you'll know more about this. And yeah, this proc file. In order to have this proc file, you need to install a GUnicorn library, which is the web server that links to your Python application, which will serve your application. I'm no expert in web dev, so it may not be completely accurate, but it's the concept. So you need a proc file, you need to install this library, and also there is in Django a place where you have to tell him, okay, you're allowed to look at this URL. And this is in the settings part. I'm just going to show it to you. So it's not... so the proc file is here. The only thing you have to write in the proc file is web GUnicorn and link it to the name of your site. Just looking for my settings. Where is my settings? Yep. And the settings is a place where you store variables, where you store a lot of things, which is not covered also today. The only thing you have to tell him is that Heroku is allowed in Django. Your Django application will allow the URL from Heroku. So you just add this piece, which is the extension of the Heroku application, and then that's enough. Before you deploy, one last thing, which we need to talk about, is static files. Static files are a place that you usually use to store your pictures. So if you want to put a dog or a swimmer in the swimming pool as a pop-up, you can do it, but you need a static file folder. Well, one solution is a static file folder, and it's not covered today. So we have to tell Heroku that will naturally look for a static file. Do not look for a static file. So we have to set up a variable through either the command line. Yeah. Thank you. So that's it for the talk. And then once you're set up, you just git push. Yeah, sorry. Thank you for your help. So now it's pushing to your GitHub repo. So you've created the GitHub repo and you've pushed your map to your GitHub repo. There is what they call a build pack, which is starting once they see that you've triggered the update of your repo, and normally it builds your application anew on the repo. It takes a little bit of time, so it's like a Docker container. It has to find a Python distribution, get your instructions, install the libraries, and then if there are tests, check the tests, and then deploy. So I'll wait. Let's do the conclusion, see if it worked after. Pros of cons of such a concept is you need no money and you need no admin rights. It can be quite useful if you want to show to a customer or to a fellow worker as part of your work. However, there is no governance. So yeah, governance meaning security, meaning many things about governance. The web app can be embedded in a conversation as a link. So this is something we use in a Teams conversation, for example, which can just share the map and then anybody can read it. However, you must not forget that it's also very easy to share a HTML file if it's not too big through email. So maybe you don't need something so complicated. The most interesting thing is that once you set it up, it's very easy to iterate. We'll see if it works, hopefully, except if it breaks. So if it doesn't work, like there was a security issue a few days ago, and the GitHub integration was broken, so it did not work for a few weeks. So you never know. If it's free, you have to compensate for that. You have to maintain yourself also. So now let's see if it worked. Yes. Ooh. So we have now our swimming pool on our web application, and it seems to be working automatically without much work at the end. That's about it. If I had to say a last word, I would give a big thanks to you for being there, but also for all the contributors. Folium, Geopandas, OpenStreetMap, Leaflet, all those people work for free. Also the Heroku stack, which is a very nice tool. I have nothing to do with Heroku. It's just for free for now, and I found it a very interesting journey for a data scientist or a developer. So yeah, thank you. And
thank you, Greg. Very interesting and yeah, very cool. So any questions from the audience?
Yeah. Can I hold this? No. Oh, you can't hold this. All right. All right. I have two questions. They might be a little bit silly because I'm no expert in publishing websites. First of all, I relate a lot to this lecture because I also use Heroku and other similar platforms. So when I try to like make a sort of a mock-up website, a GIS mock-up website, most of the tutorials that I saw used Flask, and I'm no expert, and I question why did you choose the Django? I never applied my work on that. That's question number one. And my second silly question is, I saw that you exported Folium to Leaflet. You know, typically I work in Folium when I do Python, and I work in Leaflet when I work with JavaScript. So my silly question is, if you export it, is it something that it's readable or it's complex, the exported file?
Thank you. Two very good questions. Yeah. It is something that you can export as JavaScript, the HTML file. I hope I will answer your questions. I've been looking a lot through the HTML file once it was exported, and I wanted to, it's going to answer hopefully the two questions at once. I wanted to use Django to embed the HTML file in a Django application to use the model, to use the data model. So I needed to look into the HTML file and try to change the code or embed the code in a Django application. So I would say the file is readable. Yeah, I'm not sure about the second part of your question. I will switch to the first part, however. Why Django over any other framework? I think it's about my gut feeling was that I liked Django because there is a post.js extension. It's good with PostGIS. There is also GeoDjango. I don't know those frameworks. I haven't used them yet, but I want to use them. This is why I stick to Django. And I've also deployed with a Flask. It's probably in a way easier, but for next year, it's in my to-do list to work with Django and try to set up the data model and the administration part, because maybe one day those things can work together on a bigger scale or on more industrialized scale. So yeah.
Thank you.
For the second part, maybe we can discuss it a little bit later.
Okay. Are you happy with that? Yeah. Good. Rafael, who's the next presenter? Maybe you can already kind of like say